Us who have gone through narcissistic abuse that went back in, started in childhood, that we have a particularly difficult time with a very normal thing, which everybody does, which everybody needs to do, which is set boundaries on, you know, this is what's okay and this is what's not okay, and this is the way you can treat me, and blah blah blah. We have been so accustomed to being abused, being treated poorly since we were kids, that we don't even recognize it, And so what I've noticed is we're very late. We're very late in figuring out what our non-negotiables are, like what our basic standards are for this is absolutely not okay and this is okay. And basically what this is a progression, and as you heal, you come to the point of getting your non-negotiables and getting to the place where you have these boundaries in place. But until we do that, we have a really long fuse where, in fact, we've almost even identified ourselves with our endurance for abuse. So, to us, being a good person for the longest time, to us, being a good person means tolerating everybody else's bad behavior. The more healing they do, the less tolerant of it they will get, the less tolerant of it they will be. It's like this. It's like, I heard this analogy from another YouTuber, not in our niche, in a different niche, but that it's like your life is a party, and we get to invite people into our party, and you can only come by invitation. And so if you befriend somebody, that's like giving them an invitation to your party. If you date somebody, that's like giving them an invitation to your party. And so basically, you know, if you're over there, you know, talking with HD Tutor, you're giving him an invitation to your party. And when you have someone like that come to your party, that is someone that has already told you that he has a habit of, that he will definitely come in and wear his muddy shoes and trample over your house and break your dishes and smoke cigarettes, and he might even take a shit right in the middle of your living room carpet. You know, that's the kind of guy that he is. He's a toxic person. He's a narcissistic abuser. It's a relationship of inevitable harm. Inevitable harm. No one will have a relationship with that person without ending up in pain and damaged and abused. What an experience like this is really good for, though, is for helping you come up with your non-negotiables. Knowing clearly that you want people around you that are loyal, that are thoughtful, that are kind, that are truthful, that are honest, that don't fly off the handle, that don't have strong opinions, that won't just smear somebody, that have integrity, and you know, these kinds of things. Attack me publicly with lies and slander and defamation. That's a non-negotiable for me. That is a person who is telling me that they are not balanced, that they are not healthy, and they are definitely have nothing good to offer me. They only have abuse, and they're toxic. They're toxic people. The point of having a check-in with myself and knowing who I am as a person, and knowing that I am a good friend, knowing that it is a privilege to get to be my friend. It's a privilege to come to my party. And if I want to have good people at my party, if I want to have people at my party that I admire, that can elevate me, that can teach me things, they're going to take one peek in the door and see if they, no thank you, I would rather, there's plenty of other parties I can go to without having to, you know, bother myself with this. There's only so many places in your life for people, and if you fill them up with toxic people, you're not going to have any room for the good people that can, you know, support you and be kind to you and say encouraging things to you, and you know, introduce you to people that can help you in your mission and be a person who's valuable in your life. So this is our values. We want to have people in our life that match our values. You know, I don't want to have people in my life that gossip about people, that lie about people, that attack people for no reason, that, you know, I don't want to do that. And I wouldn't expect, that's immature, that's not healthy, adult, emotionally immature behavior, and I wouldn't expect to be able to act like that and have anyone tolerate it, right? And so I'm not going to tolerate it. There is a person who was an abuser in my life, but he was not. But he was someone that I would still allow to contact me now and again. Like on Thanksgiving, he just contacted me, and I would always reply. You know, it was, you know, it seemed harmless to me for the longest time. But suddenly it didn't seem harmless anymore. And I think my son's death was the absolute pinnacle. I just wasn't going to take any more abuse at that point. And this person definitely had abused me, and definitely which meant that he was just one more contributor in the whole outcome of my son being gone, and here's who I am. And I taught him how to treat me, and that's what we're doing. We teach people how to treat us. And if I basically, the message I was giving him was, it was okay that you did all those really crummy things. I'm still going to take your calls, and I'm still going to treat you like you're an okay guy, and I'm still going to feed your false narrative. And it's of little consequence to him. He's a super successful judge. He's like, he's got plenty of stuff going on. He doesn't need me, but I still know, I feel he abused me. He cheated on me. He did a whole bunch of really crummy stuff. And I was allowing him to get away with it because I told myself it wasn't okay for me to be mad. I told myself it was my fault. I told myself that, all these different things. And honestly and truly, I had enough betrayals and enough, I'd lost so many other people that I just didn't want to, I wanted to give him a pass, just so I wouldn't have one more person that I could chalk up had, betrayed me and, been crummy to me. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to basically be able to tell myself that I had somebody who was sort of a friend, but he wasn't a friend. He was abusive to me. So when I got his text message, hope your Thanksgiving was, I didn't reply. It was the second time this year. On my birthday, he also did the same thing. I didn't reply then either. And I had a little bit of a good feeling about that. And, it's a small thing. It's a really small thing, but it's a boundary that I put in place. And I basically am saying, you don't have an invitation to my party anymore. Better to have a private party alone or with my husband, or my husband and my son and my husband's family. If it's just us for a while, that's okay with me. If it's some of you guys, that's great too. But I'm going to be discerning in who I let in. So I'm getting much more discerning, and a part of it has to do with trusting yourself as well. So when we were these victims of abuse, we basically told ourselves that there was something admirable about tolerating everybody, not judging anyone, and having, and tolerating everybody no matter what. That was accepting. And that is, I don't know where we got the idea that accepting all kinds of poor treatment meant we were a good person, meant we were a moral person, or because it doesn't. It really doesn't. It means that we are really irresponsible. We're not taking care of our own lives, and if we don't take care of our own lives, we can't take care of our children or anyone we love. So it's not admirable to let toxic people stomp all over your life, to let people, if you've even seen them stomping all over someone else's life, if you see them out of control, if you see them abusing people, for you to tolerate that is not really an admirable thing to do. It's enabling abuse. In my divorce, I gave a lot of attention to my abusers, my husband, my parents, people that were basically going to end up out of my life. And I gave a lot of attention to the life I was losing. My business, my house, all this stuff, it was all going to be gone, and I wasn't talking to my friends. I wasn't taking care of myself and my own private life and what I was future life I was going to be walking into. I was in a lot of denial, and it was just basically white knuckling it, hanging on for dear life onto my old life, refusing to let it go. And, that's another thing is, never again will I ever be trying to convince someone that I'm worthy. Never again will I be trying to convince someone that, to come, beg them to come to my party. No, N-O, not ever again. It's a privilege to get to be part of my life. It's a privilege to get to be part of your life, and you need to see it that way. And just the fact that you've been, you may have been rejected by your own parents, by people that should have loved you, but that had nothing to do with you. It absolutely had nothing at all to do with you. So, you know, you can't take that rejection as something that says anything at all about you, because it doesn't. It speaks volumes about them, but it says nothing about you and your worthiness at all. Just because the people that were supposed to love you, that were supposed to be there and protective of you, just because they weren't, it didn't mean that you didn't deserve it. It didn't mean that you weren't worthy of it. It doesn't mean that you weren't a great daughter, a great wife, a great friend. You were all those things. I'm absolutely certain of it. But they couldn't, they just didn't have it in them. They couldn't connect with you. They couldn't love. They couldn't have intimacy. And they saw you as someone that they could use. And as soon as they were done using you, as soon as you figured them out, or as soon as they got really super envious of you or whatever, it turned around and they attacked you. And you had nothing to do with that. But that is a toxic person. And you don't have to make excuses for toxic people, and you don't have to let toxic people stomp all over your house, take a crap on your carpet. You know, you don't have to let that happen. And the more that you do let that happen, and the reason we do it largely because there are lots of reasons we do it. We hang on to certain relationships, especially romantic relationships, especially because the longer we've done it, that we've stayed in there, we don't want it, we think, oh, all this investment of time and effort and energy, I can't end up with nothing. I can't do this and end up with nothing. It's like the gambler's philosophy, you know? They just keep hanging in there because the big win is going to come. It's got to come eventually, right? But it doesn't have to come. And the longer that you stay there, the greater the chances that you are absolutely going to end up feeling a tremendous loss and end up with nothing, because you're not paying attention to the rest of your life, and you're just devoting all this energy that's just going to be completely wasted. It's completely a waste of your time to try and hang on to something that when someone's trying to get away from you, they're trying to break up with you, they're trying, once someone starts abusing you, when someone starts, you know, treating you poorly, say, I'm out of here. You're not, you know, I would never again put up with being mistreated like that. Never again. I kept hanging on thinking, oh, he'll turn around and he'll be, you know, he'll see that he's wrong and he'll start treating me nice again. Forget that. I'm not sticking around while someone's treating me like that. Never again, you know? And so, but the interesting thing is that, you know, going through that once and having it be just this brutal experience, actually gone through a couple of times, but, you know, basically the same time frame. But going through that and coming out the other side, I do believe that a person who's gone through a really devastating discard and healed from it and overcome it and then done the worked on themselves and resolved, is not going to put it up. It's not going to put up with a toxic person. I think because, well, and that's normal not to. You know, it's normal not to. Most people don't. You know, people that don't go through narcissistic abuse don't put up with that. You know, it's an unusual thing to put up with it. And so our long fuse for abuse, you know, our big tolerance for pain is unusual. But it's not a good thing. You know, having a high threshold for emotional pain is not a good thing. It's condoning abuse, and it's what draws abusers to you. You know, you will end up crossing paths with abusers a whole lot less once you become less tolerant of it. You know, once you become less tolerant of it, there is nowhere else that people that act that way could get away with it. They act that way, they abuse us because no one else is going to put up with it. Absolutely not, you know? So get the toxic people out of your life, and that's just easy as pie to do because you just don't give them any attention. Dry up the attention, dry up the narcissistic supply, and they'll go away. You know, if they're discarding you anyway, they want to go away. And so, you know, you stop showing them your pain, you stop fighting back, you stop begging them, you stop giving them any sort of attention, and it'll die a natural death. It will, because they're trying to make their break anyway. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I will edit this and get it over on YouTube. All right, thanks a ton. Bye-bye.